Do vapes help you quit smoking?
Hi, I'm Jamie Hartman-Boyce. I'm an assistant professor in health policy and management at the University of Massachusetts Amherst in the US. I also hold an honorary position in the Department of Primary Care Health Sciences at the University of Oxford in the UK.
And my question for you is about vaping. We hear a lot of people who say that actually vaping doesn't really help you stop smoking. What do you reckon?
I think the evidence suggests otherwise. So we now have evidence from over 40 randomized controlled trials, which look at what happens when you give people who smoke nicotine e-cigarettes to help them quit smoking. And the evidence suggests that when you give people nicotine e-cigarettes and tell them they're there to help them quit smoking, it helps people quit smoking. And that in those trials, there's no indication of serious harm when nicotine e-cigarettes are used for that purpose.
I mean, you sound pretty convinced. That sounds like high certainty.
It is indeed. So I work for an organization called Cochrane, and we go out there and we review all the evidence on particular questions. And we think about what that evidence shows, but also how much we can trust the evidence. And what we've decided is that according to the frameworks we have high certainty evidence that nicotine e-cigarettes can help more people quit smoking than, for example, traditional nicotine replacement therapies like patches or gum.
Oh, right. So, like, compared to proper medicines, vaping's still effective. You're not just comparing it with hypnosis and, humming.
Absolutely. So compared to things that are tried and tested, nicotine e-cigarettes come up as helping people quit smoking. And we'd expect that to be the case. You're giving people who smoke nicotine, which we know can help them quit smoking, and you're also giving it to them in a way that mimics some of the things that people do when they smoke, which can help people go ahead and quit smoking for good.
Okay, but some of the trials also, they didn't give nicotine, they gave non-nicotine e-cigarettes, right? So did they work?
There was much less evidence that those worked. Now, to be fair, we have many fewer trials of those. What a lot of studies did is they compared nicotine e-cigarettes to e-cigarettes without nicotine, and those trials all found that the nicotine e-cigarettes worked better than the ones without nicotine in terms of helping people quit.
But that's not really the real world, is it? So you create these kind of fake environments where you get these people this product, and almost always they've got expert advisors helping them quit all the way, and you compare that with a control which is nothing at all. And so what does it tell us about the real world? Nothing, right?
It's an interesting point, Martin. It's a criticism a lot of people have of these trials. What I would say about them is that within these trials, everyone is receiving the same amount of behavioral support. So it's not like you're comparing someone who's getting expert support with someone who's getting nothing. Everyone's receiving the same stuff, and then one group is also receiving a nicotine e-cigarette. What we'd also say is that we have seen some real world evidence of these working as well. Those come out of different groups and show that nicotine e-cigarettes, when people are using them to help them quit smoking, can really benefit them in that context as well. And though some of the trials in our studies are highly controlled, some of them are really designed to mimic what might happen in the real world. So when we started off doing research in this space, typically those were those really kind of constrained trials where people were given the perfect advice and everything was very carefully choreographed. What we're seeing over time are more and more studies that are trying to emulate what would happen in the real world. So that might mean being given an e-cigarette with nicotine, told, use it as you like, try and cut down your smoking, very little else given. And those trials are also showing that nicotine e-cigarettes can help people quit.
So what does the population studies say?
So in England, we have this amazing resource called the Smoking and Alcohol Toolkit Study, which is run out of UCL. And that's been going for a long time. It was on the scene before e-cigarettes came on the scene, but it was a great way that researchers could quickly start asking questions about what was happening on the ground, what was happening in the real world in England when e-cigarettes came along. And what those analyses have found is that the presence of nicotine e-cigarettes essentially as an option there for people who smoke has in the real world led to more people quitting smoking than would have otherwise.
Okay, so I think I got an old-fashioned look from you once when I might have overstated the case on what the Cochrane review finds about safety. Now, I thought I was quoting it word for, or one of the summaries word for word, that there was no evidence of more adverse effects when used for smoking cessation for up to 2 years. So, as far as we can see, about as safe as NRT. Have I got that right? Or almost?
Almost right. You missed the word serious in there. So we look at two different types of adverse events in our review. One are things that we would consider kind of annoying side effects, but not ones that a doctor would consider this is really serious, right? Annoying side effects are the kind of thing that might stop you taking a medicine. So in the case of a nicotine patch, it might be that you get some irritation and your arm gets itchy, for example. What we do find is that, as again we would expect, when we look at those non-serious adverse events, we do see people reporting those with nicotine e-cigarettes when they're using them to quit smoking. And they're very similar to the types of things that get reported when people are using nicotine replacement therapy. So that can include some irritation if it's going into your mouth. Sometimes it can be like an itchy throat, a cough. Those tend to resolve over time as people get more used to using the nicotine e-cigarettes. But the thing a lot of people are rightly the most concerned about are the types of events that might, threaten your life or well-being in the long term, might end you up in hospital. And those are things we class as serious adverse events. So those are things that are worse than, let's say, a tickly cough. And what our studies show so far is no evidence that when nicotine e-cigarettes were used in these studies to help people who smoke quit smoking, they were causing any serious adverse events. We do need more data on this. The longest follow-up period we have is 2 years. These tend to be studies that aren't necessarily setting out to look at this as their main outcome, but it is at least reassuring that so far the data in these studies that are going into this review aren't kind of ringing any serious alarm bells around serious adverse events for people who smoke using e-cigarettes to help them quit smoking.
So, Jamie, I'm never going to remember more than 3 things, which is why your name is at the limit of my cognitive abilities. But the 3 things I think I have to remember from what you said is, yes, nicotine e-cigarettes are effective, at least as effective as the available medicines for helping you to quit. As far as we can see, there's no greater chance of a serious adverse event as there is with nicotine patches or gums, but you might get a more likely some kind of irritating effect. And that that's true in these kind of scientific experiments. The data suggests that in the real world, it's true as well, that behavioral support probably will help a smoker to quit by switching, but an e-cigarette is on its own pretty good and probably better than any of the alternatives. Is that about right?
That's about right. What I would say is that we don't know if nicotine e-cigarettes are better than a couple of the drugs that you can get on prescription. We need more studies to look at that. We certainly don't know that they're worse, but so far the best data we have suggests they're about as effective as each other.
Jamie, here you are. True or false? Nicotine vapes won't help you quit smoking.
False.
Jamie, thank you very much. See you very soon. Bye now.
Thank you.